I hope everything gets resolved and want to stay optimistic. I'm just sharing my opinion, right? But all of this has been going on for a long time. This whole division was already premeditated in the end. It's not something that happened by chance. And in a few years, I see it as very difficult to reverse the situation. I mean, it would take a lot of hard work because it's really complicated. But it's true that this has been studied, people can look it up, and it's not just a matter of, well, that's just how it is, right? No, that's not how it is. This has followed a certain path because it had to be that way. So regarding illegal immigration, anyone who wants to deny it, it's been a serious problem because I've experienced it on the police force. I mean, to this day, and it's hard for me to remember in recent years any Spanish national under arrest, it's really hard for me. When it comes to the holding cell, it's really hard for me to remember any locals in there. But the toughest part is that when you finally arrested them, at the last stage of my career, they were already foreigners, but with a Spanish national ID card. You think there will be a second and third generation here, and that will continue. As you said, low birth rates are an issue. We don't even reach the replacement rate. I mean, we're below it. They've taken away our identity, they've taken away our family, they've taken away our values. Now anything goes, right? And the thing is, if you take God away, it's like anything goes. And that's what they want now, right? No, it doesn't matter. Believe whatever you want, be whatever you want, everything is allowed, and that's what really fragments things.
I share that view 100%. Without God, it's very complicated for a society to stay cohesive, or at least without some common values and a general understanding of what is good and what is bad, which nowadays doesn't happen because of moral relativism. But getting into police matters now, you mentioned earlier that several colleagues started telling you some really shocking things. I'd like to get a bit into what kind of outrageous things they've told you. Above all, how the superiors coerce people, how just for wanting to do your job well, they clip your wings. I want us to go a bit deeper into the whole topic.
Look, if all the police forces, I don't care if they're local, regional, or national, released the real statistics about who commits the crimes, the whole setup would be over. It would be over. So what happens? If someone really wants to work, just imagine an entire police station, say 300 guys going out on the street like sharks. The city would go under. They used to tell me, you can't make arrests or chase anyone because it'll look like the city is unsafe or full of criminals, but that's just how things are, and it's getting worse. If I don't do my job, why am I even here? What the hell am I doing? The politician tells me to stand guard in that corner, but there's nothing there. If I know the crime is in the troubled areas, that's where we need to go. So, in the end, it was like saying, you have to push the beast, make it lose the will to work, and let everything flow. That's a real problem because in the end, they've outsmarted us. If you try to eradicate crime and criminality with a technique known in the United States as the popcorn throw it, meaning throwing popcorn at it, you're not going to achieve anything. Because those people don't share your culture. I find it funny when people say, no, people from North Africa have the same culture. That's nonsense. Even the most brainless person, even my dog, knows that's a lie. How can a person from North Africa, completely uprooted from the West, from Europe, have the same culture? It's just that they don't have the same skin color. And saying that doesn't mean being racist, it means being realistic. So, for example, my neighborhood has undergone a tremendous transformation. What's your neighborhood? Tarragona. City of Tarragona.
And is Tarragona safe now?
Now, it's been years. It's been years. Take any province. Okay.
But you don't do well.
It's close. Obviously, Barcelona and now the metropolitan area are in really bad shape. But really bad, huh? From Pakistani clans, from hitmen, obviously from Algerian and Moroccan mafias, I can tell you about everything.
Look, I'd like us to go a bit deeper into that topic you mentioned about having a registry of hitmen in Barcelona. How is that possible? I mean, we know there are people who kill for money and they're still in the country. We don't even have the ability to expel them. No, it just doesn't make sense.
No, actually, many of them are Europeans. Many of the hitmen come from Latin American countries, but many are already settled here and have an address. They're just like anyone else. One owns a dry cleaner, one is a hitman. There's a record. Since they've been identified, action was taken, and firearms were seized from them on the street, ready to fire and kill. It's not that they're missing cartridges or anything, they're fully prepared to shoot. Hidden operations were intercepted that, if successful, would have eliminated someone. But you'll tell me, isn't this curious? Well, there have already been multiple news reports of people being executed in the street. In Barcelona, there are several cases. And it's related to drug trafficking, which is a big problem we have in Spain. There is a very, very strong presence of drugs and people on the payroll in all levels of society. Very, very strong. I can't give you a number of firearms, but saying it tripled would be an understatement in a few years. I can tell you myself, on the streets, machetes and such had already become common. If you didn't recover a machete or knife every day, something was wrong. It happened daily. If you looked for it, you found it. But everything changed once firearms were involved. And the firearms weren't just 2 shotguns and that's it. No. Military-style rifles. For example, in Las 3,000 Viviendas in Seville, bursts fired into the air. People can't even imagine the number of weapons there are, the number of hitmen, the number of dangerous people. The Costa del Sol is full of mobsters, full of criminals, of leaders of criminal organizations. In Tarragona, one of the leaders of a criminal organization involved in marijuana trafficking at the European level lived there, an Albanian. Sometimes we overlook this. The Eastern Mafias have done a lot of harm in Catalonia. A lot. So it has brought together a mix of Latin gangs and Algerian and Moroccan gangs and mafias. And above all, Eastern mafias, which is a perfect criminal mix.
Some say we focus too much on Moroccans, even though many Moroccans are better integrated than Algerians, and that Algerians are actually more violent. That's true. That's very well known in France, but honestly, the kind of crimes Algerians are capable of committing, like beheadings and things like that, can't be compared to any others.
No, actually, the macro mafia is the Algerian mafia.
Isn't the macro mafia Moroccan?
Yes, but it's also considered Algerian because there's a lot of overlap.
But there are also Europeans in the macro mafia. Yes, that's right. There are regular Dutch people, blonde Dutch people, tall ones. It's not about having to be from Morocco. It's not like the Sicilians.
No. The origins could be in Algeria. It could come from there. But in the end, it can settle, for example, in Rotterdam, which has one of the largest drug entry ports. It has nothing to do with it.
So the police don't fight against this, right? They just use stopgap measures, right? I don't really understand how it works. I mean, the police and the forces in charge of fighting crime have simply given up.
No, they haven't given up. That's my point. The people who truly value this profession will leave. Actually, I have an anecdote about this with Dani Esteve, who was talking about it on a podcast. He said, nowadays, real police officers are requesting leave of absence. They're actually requesting leave of absence, and that's how it is. A lot of people are leaving and not saying anything because they're seeing this is going to collapse. I mean, I try to do my job, but I don't get any respect, not just from criminals, but even my boss, who's supposed to be my highest authority, my immediate superior, doesn't respect me. Why would I risk myself at work? So in the end, the selection processes, this is also confirmed by people who are involved in those processes, they no longer pick the ones who have a true calling. If you go into a police interview and say, I like police work, I want to serve and protect, you're out. That's useless to me. This is going to cause me problems. No, I come here because it's a stable job, the hours, all that stuff, you're in. And then you see that there are a lot of women in the force who are useless. It's not that I'm against women, but come on, why do you reserve a spot for someone if that woman isn't going to go out on the street? Or if she does go out, her partner is going to be completely in danger, exposed.
Have you ever had an experience with female partners where you felt unprotected because they didn't have the ability to use force or to protect or watch the back of the person they're patrolling with?
Several. In a gypsy neighborhood, the female partner, they were beating up the male partner in the street. She locked herself in the patrol car and the partner was almost killed. In another case, they broke into the police station, they trashed the station, the female partner locked herself in an office, and again, the male partner was almost killed. I mean, I don't want to say that all women in the police are terrible. There are many, in proportion to those who join, there are many who know how to serve and are trained and are really good partners. But the vast majority, all those who are joining now, what I call the TikTok police, they're only good for having a pretty image, wearing the uniform, but when it comes to protecting, they're worried about breaking a nail or about their fake eyelashes and hair extensions.
More and more often you see videos of female police officers acting like real fools when it's time to arrest someone.
Correct, I've experienced this myself. I mention Algerians and Moroccans because I've dealt with them most, but let's just say a criminal, right? The thing is, they laugh, but they really do laugh. They know there's no authority and nothing will happen if they hit you. Sometimes arresting them is actually doing them a favor. You're doing them a favor, you take them, which is really good, you take them to prison, you give them a halal meal, you give them a blanket, you give them everything, you take care of them. Now in China, they've launched a program, which I couldn't believe. They told me about it and I just couldn't believe it. When the detainee leaves the cell, they give him a kind of questionnaire. The police officer treated him well, they gave him the sandwich at the right time, they served him a drink, they gave him a blanket, the heating was to his liking. And they said, what the hell is this?
A hotel. Customer service. Hey, are you satisfied with the service we've given you at the hotel? At the Friendly Cigarette Hotel?
Of course, if you're committing crimes, you make that your career, your way of life, you have 50 priors, you've done everything, they take you there, they give you the questionnaire, and you say, damn, I'm doing great. Even in the most unlikely case, you end up in prison with an Olympic pool, a gym, shopping centers, rugby fields, free bachata classes, and private visits with female inmates. That's a mess. I mean, what kind of crappy security and country are we offering? We're basically telling the criminal, yes, please, come here. Come here, rape our women, rob our elderly, stab our kids, and yes, go to jail and we'll treat you like royalty. They come here from a culture where they kill each other. I mean, the way life is viewed, both in Latin America, in tough areas like Mexico, Colombia, or Venezuela, or in parts of North Africa, north of the Sahara, well, they come here and laugh. They say, but what is this? This is unstoppable paradise. I mean, this is paradise. And on top of that, the police, who are the only ones who can eradicate this, are not supported. They're not protected.
Do you think the police are the only ones who can change that? Or is it a matter of tougher laws and penalties?
It's everything. Ultimately, police are nothing without prosecutors and judges.
Exactly.
But of course, if the police, and vice versa, correct. If the police are more and more just bureaucrats and people are less and less willing to work, then fewer and fewer detainees will be brought in. Right.